Tragedy in the nation's capital overnight as an American Airlines regional plane collided with an Army Black Hawk helicopter upon landing at Reagan International Airport. Both crashed into the Potomac River. No survivors have been found. All 60 passengers and 4 crew members, plus 4 members of the U.S. military, are presumed dead. Let's get the latest now from the Military Times. Judson. Jen, thanks so much for being with us on a very difficult day for the country and certainly for the military. What are you learning?
Well, I'm sorry that this brings us together in this way. What we know so far from the military standpoint is, this was a Black Hawk from the 12th Aviation Battalion. It's based out of Davison Army Airfield. That's right next to Fort Belvoir. They fly VIP missions out of there, often, picking up VIPs at the Pentagon. I live right in a flight path of these Black Hawks. We see them all the time. And I also live right next to Reagan Airport as well. Planes are always coming in all the time. This is like a Tetris game. And I imagine, very complicated airspace at all times. So there's not a lot we know about why this happened, where the mistakes lay, or what types of failures occurred. Obviously the FAA, the National Transportation Safety Board, the Army, they're all investigating this. I'm sure we'll learn more as time progresses, but this was a training mission of some sort. We have to be careful about that definition, but it was a proficiency training mission. The pilots were using night vision goggles. Obviously this happened at night. Blackhawks are highly reliable, and so I highly doubt there was some sort of mechanical error of the actual helicopter. But we'll hear more about what's happening going forward.
Let's unpack some of those things. The Black Hawk helicopter, I am to assume it is one of the most technologically advanced and maneuverable aircrafts in the world today. How could this happen from a technological standpoint?
I highly doubt that there's a cause related to that. Often, what we've seen in the past, and I've done some deep dives into aviation mishaps within the Army. There's been quite a few Black Hawk and Apache mishaps, Class A mishaps that result in the loss of over $2.5 million, the loss of life. 2023 had the highest death rate in Army aviation crashes since 2011, and that was when the U.S. withdrew from Iraq. Blackhawks were involved in a collision with each other in Kentucky in 2023 that resulted in the death of 9 service members. That was a nighttime crash as well. Often what happens in some of these situations is spatial disorientation. It's when a pilot gets confused about where the aircraft is in terms of its position with the ground and the sky, its surroundings, and so that has often become a reason in investigations. They've discovered that that's a reason. Very often, when these types of crashes occur, the Army did determine that many of the mishaps were related to pilot error, related to spatial disorientation, things like that. But also just training is not at the same level. It can't be. We're not flying in Iraq and Afghanistan at that kind of operational tempo. Pilot experience has to be maintained through these types of flight hours. And so being able to keep up with those flight hours, being able to maintain the level of expertise within the Army Aviation branch has been very hard. It's hard to get highly experienced chief warrant officers to stay in. And so the expertise at the top is starting to deteriorate a bit. There's a lot of reasons, and often it ties back to training, to human error, more often than the actual aircraft itself.
On two of those things, Jen, what do we know about the experience of the pilot and the spatial awareness aspect of that? We've heard about the potential for night vision goggles to have factored in numerous times, whether it be press conferences or in writing. How could that change the vision, the spatial awareness, in your words, of a pilot?
It definitely makes it harder, and that's why this type of training has to be done once you have a higher level of expertise with other things. Night training comes after you have very well mastered daytime training. Night vision goggles are, they help, but they can cause complications, and you have to get used to wearing them as well. I mean, they've been a game changer in terms of being able to fly at night, but it's still hard to stay spatially oriented. There's a lot of technology and development to improve this type of flight at night, where night vision goggles may not even necessarily be needed by pilots, but we're a long way off from that. And so, often it's just getting the experience and being comfortable in night vision goggles is really important here. I don't know, obviously, if that's a factor at all in this crash. We have no idea. But it is much harder to fly at night, and night vision goggles are something that takes some time to train on.
How typical is a training mission at or near the single busiest runway at Reagan National Airport, the single busiest runway in the United States?
These types of training missions happen daily. I live here. I'm constantly seeing Black Hawk helicopters fly over my head. They fly up and down the Potomac. They go, all over, up and down, and to the various airfields that the military has. They land at the Pentagon. There's a high level of activity of military helicopters here, generally. So, and you have to train. You really have to get flight hours in daily, and so we do see that. It's not out of the ordinary, and obviously, we've gone a very long time without having any incident with training missions here. And so this is quite a surprise, and I think finding out what actually happened here will be quite eye-opening, just because this has gone on for so many years without incident.
Much of the headlines right now are dedicated to the baseless claims from the President of the United States about DEI policies at the FAA, that President Obama, that President Biden could be to blame here. I'm going to set that aside for obvious reasons. The president also said that the Black Hawk helicopter was going straight at the airplane for a, quote, extended period of time on a clear night. He asked why the helicopter did not go up or down nor turn. Do we know that to be true, that it was headed directly at the airplane for an extended period of time? And what could be an answer to why he wouldn't divert?
I have not seen the Blackhawk's flight pattern. I think it would be kind of hard to tell altitude variations.
Yeah.
But I do think that obviously it wasn't in the right position, and the plane potentially wasn't in the right position on their flight path. But this, again, you can be off by a little bit, and that's it. So, whether it was flying right at it and saw it, it's hard to tell. It happened at night, and if you're looking at something else or your radars aren't picking things up, they're not the only ones that need to notice. The aircraft also was there, and there's people coordinating this from a control tower, and it's just, there's a lot of players involved here, and it is really hard to tell whether there was this intentional flight pattern straight at an aircraft.
You were focused on a press conference that was factually based from the U.S. military. What did you learn from that? What did you hear?
Well, actually, I was in all morning tuning into the Army Secretary nominee's confirmation hearing before the Senate. He did obviously had a few comments about this tragedy, and he mentioned early indication is that this was a training mission that had gone wrong with a catastrophic outcome. It was an accident. He also said that the Army might need to take a new look at the risk of flying training missions in and around the Reagan Airport, and he said that he would do that. Another, I think, important comment made by Senator Tammy Duckworth, as you may recall, she was Black Hawk pilot and lost her legs in a Black Hawk accident in Afghanistan. She cautioned, everyone in the room to avoid calling it a training accident. She said that until they have a better idea of what exactly happened, because training accidents have very specific definitions, and it tends to start blaming the pilots and these pilots are some of the best trained in the world. Making a mistake, this obviously was not intentional, but making a mistake is something that, they are the best trained in the world. And so mistakes are very rare. And so we will see, but we can't just immediately blame the pilots. It's
Yeah.
just very unfair at this point.
Indeed. I'll be completely honest, Jen. My first reaction in the wake of what happened at the Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas with one of the most well-trained Army Rangers blowing up a Tesla Cybertruck, I thought to myself, could this be domestic terrorism? You said it could not have been on purpose. Why do you say that?
Yeah.
And has there been a whisper of that?
No, there has been no whisper, and the Pentagon has maintained, from every, the Army side of the house to even the Secretary of Defense, this was not an intentional occurrence. This was not an attack. This was an accident.
Okay. Jen Judson from the Military Times, very much appreciate you being with us on a very difficult day for the military and this country. Thank you.
Thank you.